You're listening to an episode recorded during the time Innovation Fuel was part of University Canada West. We are proud and grateful for the work we've done together, and we want to thank the university for being in our podcast. We are now excited to continue the journey of Innovation Fuel into its next chapter. Thanks for listening. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Innovation Fuel, the podcast that brings you fantastic stories from entrepreneurs and key industry professionals. I am Dave Kiran.
And I am Gelare Farhadian. We are educators, entrepreneurs, and your hosts. Innovation Fuel is our weekly business podcast brought to you by University Canada West. Each week, we explore diverse business models, entrepreneur journeys, experts' insight, and managerial challenges, and how companies stay agile and innovative during COVID-19. Check out our episodes at www.ucanwest.ca/innovationfuel. Good morning, Dave. It's my time. How are you?
Wow, you must be running this morning because you got some energy.
No, I have kickboxing. I do kickboxing now.
Kickboxing, yeah. So, hey, Galari, one of the things I've been working on is the Next Generation Hub here at UCW. You guys, and one of the reasons why we kind of went down this pathway of this Innovation Fuel is that we want to create opportunities. We want to be the open innovation. We want to create that open innovation with the university and connecting us to businesses, connecting us to communities, connecting us to associations to support the role of innovation. And yet there's still some challenges there.
Yeah, exactly. So some ecosystems are really great. And when you can say ecosystem is a good, when you can see a lot of startups per year is coming. So as we can see, the Vancouver and BC is one of the places that a lot of startups coming every year. And there is a good infrastructure facilities for investors, startups, a lot of tax credits can be happening. So these ecosystems, it has a great opportunity and it has some challenges like the collaboration between the players of this ecosystem. As you know, the Okanagan, Kamloops, it's a really great place. It's one of the great places in ecosystem. And the reason is behind of us is a person that we call it today.
Yes, our friend Raghwa, the CEO of Innovate BC, is going to chat with us today about certain ecosystems, and one in particular that he was a big part of, which is the Okanagan one that you're talking about, and then how he's trying to scale that up with Innovate BC.
Welcome, Raghwa Gopal, to another episode of the Innovation Fuel.
Yes, welcome, Raghwa, to our Innovation Fuel podcast. We're so excited to have you here and learn more about Innovate BC. But first, we've got to know a little bit about you. Our audience wants to know, how did you end up at Innovate BC? Tell us a little bit about your backstory and how you ended up there.
Good morning, and thank you. And thank you for having me on the podcast. Yes, very happy to start with a brief introduction of myself. So born, raised, and educated in a very small island country of Fiji in the South Pacific. Computer science background, happened to arrive in Kelowna about 42 years ago in 1979. There was really, pretty small town at that time. I think probably population of under 40,000 roughly at that time. No technology companies or services. And I had very great difficulty in finding a job. So I basically had to probably move to a larger city like Toronto or Vancouver to find something in my space of software engineering. But I was lucky enough to find an individual here in Kelowna that had a computer company, hardware, that he was doing some work on. So I approached him, was lucky enough to get hired. Then we became business partners and best friends for the last 42 years and probably for life. And started to just working, co-founded that software company called Vadim Software. Started building software for local governments, about 30 different, over years, built 30 different applications that was totally integrated. Started in British Columbia, obviously, and then grew nationally, so coast to coast. So I think we had about 350 municipalities that we provided software and services for. Grew the company, I think by 2000, we had about 100 some people working for us, all in Kelowna. And I'll talk about some of the issues about growing a company in a small town where there isn't an ecosystem. And we were lucky enough that we were approached by a company in 2001 that were interested in buying us out. And we said, wow, this is, the offer was so fantastic. That was the .com era where everybody was going crazy with multiples and numbers. And we decided my partner and I decided to sell the company in 2001. I took a bit of a retirement. I was very young at the time, just over 40 years old. And that didn't last for too long, about 5 or 6 months. Got back into a number of other businesses, just started, and this business the first one was 28 years. So it was a startup that kind of overnight success. We might call it 28 years later. But all the other businesses that I started was just in terms of, starting, growing and selling quickly. And by 2006, I'd done the next few years, a number of them, and then basically decided to build an ecosystem in the Okanagan in Kelowna. And what I had found as I was growing my business, having a great amount of difficulty hiring good talent in Kelowna. We were the only game in town. Not too many people wanted to locate the family here, knowing that we were the only option. So for that reason, I thought, I'm going to get out there and I'm going to try and build that ecosystem where other companies that are in the same stage that I was will have a number of other opportunities. So by doing that, got involved in the local academia with the Okanagan College, started to do a lot of mentorship there with the University of British Columbia, the Okanagan campus, did some mentorship over there, invested in a lot of probably over 30 startups for students wanting to get something going, seed them with $5,000 or $10,000 to an idea where I'd invest $50,000 to $100,000 to get going, and provided a lot of mentorship. And by 2010, I was so busy, I got a few other friends started to help me. Everybody wanted to get some advice. With a number of friends, created an organization called Accelerate Okanagan in Kelowna, where it was a place where people can come that had some ideas that can get some mentorship and get a lot of other help in terms of how to raise money, how to prepare to raise money, where to raise money from, where the markets potentially could be, make connections, and so on and so forth. So between 2010 and 2015, we were doing pretty well. And 2015, I actually stepped in as the CEO of Accelerate Okanagan and really got involved with getting my hands dirty, growing the ecosystem in Kelowna. And by 2017, 18, we had grown a pretty large tech ecosystem here, roughly 700 companies, about 12,000 people employed in this space, about $1.7 billion in economic contribution to the region. Now, that is pretty huge. That's a huge transformation. This region has, over the last 100 years, survived on agriculture and tourism. And agriculture, tourism combined has an economic contribution of about $1.5 billion. So technology and digital has started to take over, which was all great. I was very happy with what we were doing, and this region is starting to continue to grow. And in 2019, there was an opportunity to do something similar, but at a provincial scale. And hence, I joined Innovate BC as the president and CEO. And for the last 2 years, I've been really, really busy trying to do almost similar kind of things, but at a provincial level. So that's a very long but very brief introduction.
So I have a question. Several times you mentioned about the ecosystem. So if you want to compare, because you're right now, you have to deal with the bigger ecosystem with BC, right? So if you want to compare, because you built that ecosystem, entrepreneur ecosystems in Kelowna, now you have to deal with other cities. If you want to compare Kelowna with other cities such as Vancouver, what do you see the differences and the biggest challenge is going to be for the ecosystem in Vancouver?
Yeah, it's more about making sure the whole community, first of all, gets on the same page, has a similar message, and that starts to believe in a similar vision. That's exactly what we did in Kelowna. It wasn't just me. I might have been the catalyst or somebody that had the passion, or maybe even the vision. But it's about getting everybody on the same page, getting on the same page, having the same vision, and starting to add to it in whatever fashion they can. So it's multiple legs to that. Academia has to play a pretty important part. The government has to play a pretty big role at all levels, at the local level, regional level, provincial and federal. And we had all of that here in Kelowna. And then industry has to come together as well. So, and we were very lucky here that a lot of the existing industry, people, organizations that were established and were around really believed that this was the right thing to do for the region, and they came together to support. So, and this support, was financial, obviously not huge, but the support, just the moral support of saying this is a great idea and we were behind it. But providing, mentorship services and allowing people in the organization to just be there in networking events and participating there and just, having a chat over coffee with somebody that has an idea and giving them that confidence that, this is a great idea, I should move it forward. So that is what's needed. And in Vancouver, it's done a fantastic job. I mean, there's a number of different, sectors that we're leading. In clean tech, obviously, British Columbia is one of the leaders in the world. Out of the top 100 companies in the world in clean tech, 13 or 14 are located in British Columbia, mainly in Vancouver area. So we're excelling in that particular space. In artificial intelligence, we're growing great amount of resources there, some really highly skilled people. And a number of companies have grown over the just last 2 to 3 years to close to 100. So a lot of that's happening. So people are starting to see that, and people are starting to come together. Organizations are starting to come together to build that ecosystem, and it's showing. I mean, British Columbia is definitely looked upon as one of the fastest growing tech ecosystems in the country.
So with that in mind, and I just leading towards, because we've also seen this adaptation of these larger organizations coming to town, and we have this, Amazon's going to open a big office here. This word that Netflix wants to come here too. We've already got Sony. We already got Microsoft. We've got these big organizations. Now, are those big organizations a drain on innovation? Because if we have this element of these big organizations that come to town, and we're talking about tech, are they absorbing all the technology specialists? And does that put a damper on us trying to be more innovative?
I don't think so. I mean, it definitely has two sides to it. I mean, the companies are coming here because they see we have amazing talent, and our academic institutions produce, world-class talent. So that's the reason they're coming here. I mean, ease of doing business, our governments have, really cut out a lot of red tape. So they, the stability and the ease of doing business is amazing. And this is one of the best parts of the world to live in. So, I mean, we have all of those things going. So I think those are the reasons the companies are coming. Now, definitely there's an issue that, they hire a lot of people. I mean, in one way, it's great because it provides an opportunity for people that are coming out of colleges and universities that are able to find some good, highly well-paid, good jobs, which is fantastic. But it does put a drain on the startup innovation ecosystem. But, that's one of the goals that we have, to make sure we continue to provide that access to that talent, whether it's graduating more students and having more seats in the academic institutions is one. The other one is, making sure that we provide a quick and easy way to, bring people from outside of British Columbia that has the right kind of skill and talent that the companies need. So making sure that we provide those routes as easy as possible to make sure companies that are innovating and need skill can get it on a timely basis.
So again, I mean, what do you think? I mean, you said that academic, government, and industry, right? And there isn't challenges between them because they have to collaborate to build an ecosystem. For example, just look at the academia. How much the academia and universities or colleges work together to build this ecosystem and grow this ecosystem.
And I think there may have been a myth, or could have been the truth years back, that they were all kind of isolated and kind of doing their own thing. What we found, I mean, I'll just give you an example here in Kelowna, and just because I've seen it work. So we have two post-secondary institutions, Okanagan College, which has been here for more than 50 years, and UBC Okanagan campus been here about 15 years or something, just under 15 years. Huge amount of collaboration between them. They meet on a very regular basis. They collaborate on programs. the results are fantastic. And then there are a couple other universities, Thompson Rivers in Kamloops and Prince George. I know those three universities are actually collaborating they have a tripartite council where they meet, share ideas, and then cooperate on different initiatives. So a lot of that's starting to happen, and it's happening the same thing with the province. The Research Universities of British Columbia is an organization where all universities get together on a very regular basis and collaborate. Now, maybe some other institutions, maybe that are private, maybe not government, maybe does not have a seat at this time in those. But I think there's opportunities for all of them to come together and start to work together, at least share ideas of what they're doing, and where maybe just come to agreement on some of the common vision, and then just starting to work on those.
So in that, and Raghwa, we've been talking with a couple institutions in Ontario, and one of the things that came out, they said in Vancouver, that Vancouver has this element of following too much behind the Silicon Valley model. And they find that, and this is just coming from them, and I'm just kind of get your opinion on this element, is that they say that we are kind of closed-minded with their innovative, and we're not being open to a network element and being open to sharing ideas across, like you said, okay, there's some public institutions that are working together, but organizations are still siloed and they're still operating in those silos. Is there any myth to this, or is this something that we're trying to overcome and try something different than taking the Silicon model?
Yeah, my experience, I've lived in, like I said, in Kelowna for 40 years. So just only last 2 years I've kind of lived in Vancouver. When I went there, I went with this mindset that there'd be a lot of silos. Everybody's kind of doing their own thing. Nobody's interested in what other people are doing. Why collaborate? I'm doing well. I know what's going on. I was astonished by the amount of support, that I personally got. But what I'm seeing in the whole ecosystem, how people are, getting together and collaborating. I'll tell you, I was in a digital supercluster meeting yesterday. They had government agencies, global affairs. They had WD, NRCRF, like a whole bunch of these people just kind of sharing what they're doing. Like they're just kind of laying it out of what the plans are for the next 12 months, what initiatives or priorities they're looking at. And they're asking others, like, how can we help? Where can we collaborate? So I'm seeing a lot of that. I think we probably have a little bit of that stigma where, we just go do things, right? And we don't care about anybody, we're just going to do it. I don't think, that may exist in a bit, but I think the whole ecosystem is starting to believe that, by being together, by working together, we can do way more than by taking the siloed approach.
So what is your vision for the BC and the collaboration between the players of this entrepreneurial ecosystem?
I just want to make it so easy when somebody has an idea or somebody's growing the business, that they don't need to create relationships 15 times. They should be able to, there's the ecosystem where if I'm connected with one person or one entity, that I'm basically connected to everybody. So if I'm needing some research from a university, I don't need to go build that relationship. If I'm needing some grants and subsidies with a federal government agency or a provincial government agency, I don't need to go start from scratch. If I'm looking for some mentorship, as an example, through organizations like New Ventures BC or Foresight Accelerator, or even some large corporations, if I know that somebody is at TELUS, the CTO or CIO that might be able to help me, it shouldn't take me 6 months to make the relationship. If I know somebody, if I know you, I should be able to have access to all of those people within minutes. So that's the beauty of that ecosystem and the collaboration.
So you think that one way to go through this networking and collaboration is through mentorship. And industry, academia can build this mentorship collaboration?
Absolutely. So there is a number of organizations that are totally set up and geared for mentorship, and creating networking opportunities where everybody else kind of gets to meet and network with others as well. So if you look at Foresight Accelerator in Vancouver, they're focusing mainly on clean tech, and they also do a lot of stuff in agri-tech as well. Probably not very known, but they do a lot of work in agri-tech and some other stuff as well. But their focus is clean tech. So they, they hold networking events. They, bring in speakers where they, you can learn from. But networking events are really good because you get to, in one event, able to probably network and associate or get to know 5 people that will help you with the next, whatever things that you needed. New Ventures BC is another one that does similar thing. But then there's agencies around the province, right? Set up, Nanaimo has one. Island Innovation Technology Association. They're set up for mentorship, so people can go there. They have space. They have mentors that they already have vetted, have association with. In the Kootenay Association for Science and Technology is called CAST. Kelowna, obviously, Accelerate Okanagan. Kamloops has Kamloops Innovation Center. Prince George has one as well. So there's, and Victoria, Viatech in Victoria. So there's agencies set all around the province where people that want mentorship will get easy mentorship, very, very easily and very easily accessible.
So, and on that vein, is it the responsibility of the city to develop the innovation piece, or is it the organizations? Like, there's a crossover here. We got institutions that are doing labs. We've got organizations trying to do labs. You got over people doing it, and it seems to be that they're all trying to do their own individual things in different ways. And how do we then leverage that into an open innovation concept?
Yeah, I have, there are cities that are actually, have a great vision, and they are, individuals within the city that know about it and believe that innovation, in a city and moving into sort of the tech, the digitization side, is where the world needs to go. So in those areas, the city initiates it. What I found, generally, and just being very honest and blunt, and nothing against the cities, it's individuals within communities that get together and say, hey, we need to do this. And then they create some sort of nonprofit organization. And then they kind of find, agencies like Innovate BC, and then WD or NRC, IRAP, other agencies that can provide some sort of funding so they can be sustainable. So that's normally what I found is how it starts. So there'll be people that have been there, done that, sees the value in this, gets together and says, hey, we need to create this place. We need to provide this access to people. I've done it already, but I'm pretty sure there's hundreds of people that need to do this. How can we help them? And then that's how it kind of grows into an organization, a place. And then organizations, like I say, the province through Innovate BC, will fund them so they're continually are sustained.
I want to get back to the ecosystem. I think that I really like this one. And do you think that what financial institute play in this ecosystem?
It's hard for if you're just building an ecosystem and you're there to provide mentorship, and if there's 2 models. So if you look at US, it's basically everything's for profit, and they have a mature ecosystem, and it works over there. So I'll give you a quick example to illustrate the differences between US and Canada. So it's a mature system. If you have an idea, very quickly you'll be able to raise $250,000 just by talking to 2 people. Now you'll go to a place where, Techstars or Plug and Play, and you will pay fair value for the services that you'll provide. So you'll be connected to them. You'll pay a pretty hefty price, probably $10,000, $12,000 a month, but you'll get amazing service and great connections from them. So that's the pay model, and that works down south because of the maturity. Here in British Columbia, in Canada, we were not at that mature level. So if a student has an idea, it'll be very difficult for them to raise the $250,000. It'll be very difficult for them to raise the first $50,000. Hence, they need to go to a place, an organization where they can still get the same level of mentorship. They can get the same kind of connections for how to raise money and where to raise money and access to market, but not have to pay much. Maybe $200 a month would be probably sort of the comparative. Hence, most of the accelerators, incubators, or associations that provide this kind of services have to rely on government grants and subsidies to exist.
Is there any tax credit for investors in this? From the government?
I can only talk about British Columbia because that's the one I know for sure. So I'll just talk about that. If you're an accredited investor, and which basically means you have to have a certain amount of income or a certain amount of asset that you need to validate. So assuming you are an accredited investor, if you're investing in a business or a startup that has got a prior approval from provincial government, it's a program called Eligible Business Credit, EBC credit. So the process would be the business would go to province, apply for an eligible business credit amount, and they can say, I'm going to raise $2 million. So they'll get approved for $2 million of investments. Any accredited investor investing in that particular business will get 30% back from the provincial government. Say, invested $200,000 in this business, you'll get $60,000 back from the provincial government. So that kind of eliminates about 30% of your risk right off the bat, which is an amazing program.
Well, that's fantastic. So I think that we need another episode just go talk about the investment part.
When we're talking about this element, and one of the things that is always an opportunities that I see is that we, being a university that caters mostly to international students, we have international students coming to Canada. They're ready to start a new life in Canada. And when we're starting to get them, and they're looking towards starting a new entrepreneurial venture, but a lot of the funding we see out there is not for these individuals, it's for Canadian residents. And so the challenge then becomes, and again, becomes on the other side of it too, is that because, we have these individuals that are coming with all this talent, but it's not recognized because they don't have Canadian experience. And so this becomes a big challenge. So how do we overcome this? How do we work together to create this more of an opening innovation side of things and bring more of this global knowledge here and sustain it here?
Yeah, I think this influx of international students that are coming into Canada, into British Columbia, is hugely beneficial for British Columbia, especially as we described or discussed earlier, the shortage of talent and not getting, for businesses or startups, not getting the talent at the right time is a huge problem. I mean, the ideas could basically die. So I think this international students coming here is playing a pretty integral role, I think, very important role in fulfilling some of that. Now, the disadvantages, I think a lot of those myths is being erased now. So let's take a couple of tracks. One track is an international student wants to work. The other track is an international student has an idea and they want to make that into a business. If they were to incorporate a business, I don't think the residency issue becomes a problem at all. So if they incorporate a business that's wholly incorporated in British Columbia, that business should be eligible for the EBC tax credit that we talked about, and all of the mentorship services, subsidized mentorship services and access to money and access to market. None of that should be an issue. And even accessing grants that I can talk about a little later as well, that comes from Innovate BC through our programs or through some federal government programs or other provincial government initiatives. So if they incorporate a business, I don't think so, and I don't know of too much of hindrances if they were an international student. Now, as far as getting employment opportunity, that may be only at the employer level. I know there were a lot of previous programs, the way they were developed, especially if there were subsidies or grants for hiring, it was developed that it should be a Canadian resident or a British Columbia resident then they will qualify for it. But that is changing as well. And that's one of the things that I know of that issue. I've talked to actually at least a couple of high commissioners that have kind of brought that up to my attention as well on the hiring grant side, to basically saying, why is it not open to all students here? Just treat them equally, not a local student or international student. So some of that is changing already, and I can definitely tell you one thing, that I'm very passionate about making sure that everybody has equal access. So if you're here, if you're going to spend 4 years or maybe 3 years, even after that, a 7-year period, and maybe continue to live here permanently, I think they should have equal level of access.
I love it, Raghwa. And this is great that you're here to chat about it, because I believe you are that source, that help, that support that. And we're here trying to do the same thing here, Galaria and me as individuals. But I think that this is exactly where we need to go. I think this is where the opportunity is. We have this great wealth, both domestically and internationally, and we just have to create a fair ground for all of them to contribute, and we can all benefit from it.
Absolutely.
So, Raghwa, we always like to end the show with a little bit of a challenge. Do you have a challenge that we can throw out to our students, our listeners here, for them to think about?
Absolutely. I mean, if I'm pretty sure that you have some amazing, bright students that are very creative, and they're probably just looking for some ideas. But one thing that I was thinking about over the last week, with this pandemic, I think there's, definitely, it's been a strain on many lives, and being locked in and locked out, has that mental effect. But I will always look at opportunities in all of these kind of things. So. I think with the vaccination, immunization starting to happen right now, and hopefully travel will open soon. This is just one component of it, but here is an idea that I think your students can take up and build something very quickly. Build a digital medical passport. And I'll tell you the issues that we currently experience. So we have a lot of our medical information with our family doctor. We have some information with the testing labs and stuff like that. So when you go do a blood test and other stuff, it remains over there. We go to have physiotherapy and other stuff, and it remains over there. And then we have immunization, which stays with the health authorities. I think if we had a digital passport that brings everything together, and then there's opportunities to add to it, add calendars for upcoming bookings and stuff like that. It can also kind of grow into maybe diet and training and exercise modules as well. So it can start. Obviously, when you start, you want to start very small, but I think it can grow into something. So whoever comes out first, there's going to be a huge demand for this. So I think there's a real business idea here if somebody wants to take it up and build it quickly.
And I think there's lots of different angles to take on this, and we have a big fintech piece here. We have a blockchain piece here that could play into this piece. I love it. I love it. Thank you, my friend.
It's a fantastic. Thank you, Raghwa. Is there any other question that we haven't asked about ecosystem from you?
No, I think we've had a pretty good, wholesome discussion on that. I know through my experience, and if you look at Okanagan as an example, where everybody came together, the growth of this tech ecosystem here in Kelowna has consistently grown 15% year over year, at least for the last 6 or 7 years. So I can say with great confidence that definitely works, and it's something that very much needed for the whole community to come together and believe in the same vision and work towards the same vision. So it works.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Raghwa, for being here. Thank you, Dave. That was another episode of Innovation Fuel.
To all entrepreneurs and managers out there, we have ambitious students here at UCW who would love to hear from you and help you with your business through our internship, our capstone program. If you think you have a wonderful story or a challenge that you want to share with our students and our audience that you think they can benefit from, we want to hear from you. We want that information. We want you to be a part of this show. We also want you to join our mentorship program. We've got a great mentorship program to help students as they move on their educational journey towards getting into a career or launching a new opportunity. So reach out to us, connect with us at www.ucanwest.ca/Innovation Fuel.
You have just listened to the Innovation Fuel podcast with your hosts, Dave and Gellere. Subscribe to our podcast on Apple, Google, or Spotify. Join us next week for another innovative story. Thank you for listening and have a great week.